So one of our main aspects of this church is the whole spread God. And I have been encouraging you all to get to know your neighbors and different ways to do that. And one of the ways that I've been doing that is by doing coffee time, where every couple of months we do coffee out front, and then we invite our neighbors to come and be a part of that. And Brady and Michelle just did one of these, and so I want them to share their experience and what it was that they saw God doing as they invited their neighbors to their coffee time. So why don't you guys share just, how it went and just the process that you went through.
Absolutely. So first of all, it was just finding a date. And we realized it was one of those things where you just have to put it on the calendar and make it happen. Otherwise, it's really easy to just not plan it. So we set a date. We talked to a few of our neighbors who we know, and they were all for it. And we picked a date together, and we made flyers and went around our Via Carmela block right here in the neighborhood and just left it on their doorstep and prayed about it and said, okay, I hope that people come, but we really had no idea how many people would come. It was a Saturday morning from 8 to 10, and we just made a whole bunch of coffee, and I made scones, and a couple of the neighbors who we had already talked to were like, oh, we'll bring juice, and we'll bring fruit, and all this stuff. And we just set up at 8 o'clock, and we had our first visitor right at 8. We thought, okay, this is good. And then it kind of picked up from there. What did you see, Brady?
Well, one of the scariest things was thinking people might actually show up. Because then you have to talk to people. I'm really comfortable just drinking coffee in my driveway. But
now, did you know a majority of your neighbors already on your street?
And we'd met some of the folks that have moved in the last year or so. So we had maybe 6 or 8 neighbors that we knew, and other people that you just you wave at as you drive by, as you come and go. But
we knew about 3 couples pretty well, and we knew they would show up. So if all else failed, there would be about 4 couples hanging out in our driveway.
Okay.
And it was good. The first couple came, and at some point you step back and you look and you go, my driveway's full of people, and I think we might have had 30 people from the neighborhood.
30 people.
Yeah.
That is amazing.
It was crazy. It was so neat to just kind of step back and be like, oh my goodness. Our driveway is filled with people. There were kids playing out on our lawn. It really was beautiful in a lot of ways and kind of surprising. I mean, we were like, wow. All we had to do was say, hey, come. Yeah. We'll supply the coffee. And a lot of people really came. And the people who didn't come, we saw a couple of weeks later and like, oh, man, how did that coffee thing go? We're so bummed we had to miss it. So we kind of realized talking with people during the actual event and afterwards that they really wanted community and they thought it was a great idea, and those that we talked to wanted us to do it again. Like, hey, so when's the next one? Or we should do a barbecue block party. So it kind of morphed into this even bigger thing that people wanted to do because it was so successful, which was just, total God thing. Yeah. Right? We didn't have anything planned, but hey, we're going to sit here and we're going to feed you coffee. And they came.
We sat like lawn chairs out thinking we may sit down and have to wait for people, and I think we might have sat down for like 30 seconds before people started showing up, so it was cool.
And the really surprising thing, too, is we had it from 8 to 10, and the last person left at 11:30.
Wow.
So it was just really cool to see, okay, this wasn't they didn't feel like they had to go or anything like that, or we should just pop in for 5 minutes. Most people stayed for a few hours. Yeah. So it was neat.
We experienced the same thing. That's great. I don't think we had 30 people, but people stayed for half an hour, and as we looked at our watch, we were like, oh my gosh, we have a day to, we've got stuff to go to. We got to wrap this up, right? And so that's awesome. What would you guys advise people that might be thinking, gosh, you know what, that sounds really good, but that's not part of my personality, or I don't know if anyone's going to show up, so there's that fear. What advice would you give to us to get over that hump and just to do it and meet your neighbors?
Well, I would say, it might be surprising for some people, but we're total introverts. And we just had to say, you know what, like you only grow, I think, when you're slightly uncomfortable. That's when you grow the most. Yeah. when you're in your comfort zone, it's really easy to just be yourself and kind of ride through, and you don't grow as much. So we had to really pray about it and, pray about the date and pray about our hearts and really consider, this is bigger than just us and our needs. It's what the community needs, and it's about spreading God's word and spreading God's love. And so I think when you think of the entire picture, you realize, hey, let's go out in that leap of faith. Let's take that risk, because what's the worst that can happen?
You sit in your driveway alone and drink coffee.
Yeah, more coffee for us, right? So, there's really while it might feel risky from a personality perspective, at the same time, you don't really lose anything. There's only a gain that can happen. Even if one person shows up, that's one person that you get to know better.
Right.
So, what do you think?
I agree.
Ditto.
Ditto.
Hey,
Ditto.
so speaking of the whole community aspect, we have our High Five Sunday next Sunday. So make sure you're here at 10:05. And I've asked Brady and Michelle, because they live in our community, they live in the Los Paseos area, and our focus for that Sunday is Los Paseos Park and the surrounding area. And so Michelle has been in contact with not only the city, but also with Ann. And I want you to tell us a little bit about her and the relationship that we now have with her, and maybe even some of the things that we are going to be doing next Sunday.
Absolutely. So I guess starting from the beginning, just an encouragement to all of us is that when I called the communications coordinator, who wasn't Ann, her name is blanking on me right now, but she was so thrilled and excited and put me immediately in contact with Ann, who was delightful and wanted to actually meet Brady and I. And we met with her at the Paseos. And she wanted to basically walk around with us to see, hey, what are the needs? Let's walk around and see what those needs might be. She was jazzed to hang out with us and just kind of overwhelmed that our church wanted to be a part of something like this.
And Ann lives in the...
She does.
In
She
the
lives
community, right?
She lives in the neighborhood.
Okay.
So she actually walked us by her house, and we met her dogs. And she was like, hey, this is where I live. So she was extremely open, extremely generous. And when we were walking the Paseos, we were trying to just recognize what can we do as a church and what are some needs. And there's a couple of areas where there's a little bit of graffiti that's already been painted over, but it just looks kind of bad because you've got, a wall of old paint and then just a square of where they've painted over their graffiti. So that was a big need that we saw that would just make the area look a lot nicer. What are some other things?
There's some trees and stuff in the walkways and down by the park that are below eye level for most normal-heighted people.
Okay.
So getting those cleaned up and out of the way of folks so they can actually use the walking paths and sidewalks without having issues. And then the other thing that was a real kind of a wreck that was used for the neighborhood night out for the Los Paseos Neighborhood Association was the picnic area in the park. There's just a bunch of old tape and gum, and that could use a really thorough cleaning, and there are always people there. So it would be something, even if they didn't know who cleaned it, they'd be glad that it was clean. So.
Yeah.
Well, I'm super excited for next Sunday. This is something that we haven't done before with the park. Every High Five that we've done has just been absolutely amazing, and the turnout has been great. We work really hard to make sure that there are things for everyone to do, which we will definitely do this time around. And then I'm looking forward to afterwards, because we're just going to hang out at the park when we're done. So, if we're working for a half an hour, 45 minutes, an hour, whatever it is, when we're done, bring your own lunch. And then we're just going to play on the park, let the kids play at the park, and just hang out as a church for a little bit. So please mark this on your calendar. 10:05 is when we show up here for a little bit of worship, a short devotional, and then we're going to head out. We'll tell you exactly where to go. Wear your Bernal shirts and some clothes that you don't mind getting dirty, shorts, and then we'll set out to clean up the Los Paseos Park area and have a great day together as a church serving our community. Thanks, guys, for coming. Appreciate it. All right.